welcome to Investors Hangout, your weekly guide to making smarter financial decisions. This series is brought to you by Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund and Value Research. Now, investing is all about growing your wealth, but small mistakes can wipe out big gains. So, what are those small mistakes and how can you avoid making them? To discuss that and much more, we have with us Dhirendra Kumar, our in-house expert. Welcome, Dhirendra.
Thank you.
First up, what is the first big mistake that people make and that they should avoid that acts as an impediment to their investment journey?
One is that, successful investing is all about avoiding mistake. Because doing things, you have to do very few things. But the first one which comes to my mind is actually not a mistake. It turns out to be a mistake with hindsight.
Right.
And that is, late start. Because, compounding, the magic of compounding, it's a very impressive thing. But it actually shows up only after 10 years. And in the initial phase of our life, when we are getting started, when we start earning, then we have a lot of, huge need for money. As we are setting up a home or, everything, we start from ground zero as an independent person. And the initial phase of our income is also very low. We are able to, find hundreds of excuses that I will do it tomorrow, procrastinate. But my understanding is that investing starts only after you save. And savings is more of a habit. It is not about this much money. You have to see that, how a small amount of money can become a meaningful capital.
Right.
And the compounding at a higher rate, what it does. The magic of compounding getting demonstrated where, starting early plays a very significant role. And that I think is crucial. So, and that is where, most people go wrong.
All right. So losing out on the benefit of compounding by not starting early. That's the first mistake. Yeah. What would be the second one?
Second one is also, an extension of the first one, but that this is a mistake. This is something, people have deep belief that they can time the market. They will be able to buy it when it is low and they will be able to sell when it is high. And in my 34 years of, running value research or looking at markets and every time it looks real. It looks as if, the market is has tanked, is at a level where it will not be able to easily make a comeback. And when it is at a high, it is very difficult to say that it is a high. It looks like very normal that, okay, this is where it should be. And we also feel very happy. We also do most of our mistake because we are trying to time the market. Simply because, when the market is at a high, investing is easy. Psychologically, every day the market is going up and the market is at a low. Investing is very difficult because you put your money and the next day it goes down further. You have this, feeling of loss immediately. Start with the premise that you can't time the market. Okay. Start with the premise that markets will move in a direction which can be least anticipated. No professional manager has been able to do it. And I would say that, this is an act of belief, act of faith when you get started, that you have to think of a time frame, you have to think of an amount, and you have to be at it for a period, and then only you will start believing that timing may not be a great thing.
All right. So timing the market is a myth. Moving on to the third one. What is that, Dhirendra?
No, one is that fear and greed. This is actually the reason for people attempting to time the market, because people don't want to lose their money. That is why they are unable to invest at the lows. Because people want to grow their money. And when they invest and the market is rising, it is much easier to invest. And when they are faced with the opposite, if they invested at a time when the market was rising and the market falls, they get fearful. And this is going to be the character of the market. This is, developing a belief that this is going to be like this only. And whenever you are faced with this big declining phase or a big rising phase, you have to get over this. Initially, you have to have this act of faith that, okay, let it become something meaningful. Then only these things will become, then only you need to really bring in those shock absorbers so that it does not crumble, or, if it rises, you benefit reasonably. So this, every time, the extremes that the emotions that you get, the fear of, the fear or the greed that, okay, I missed out on this, I have to catch this bus. And this drives investors in a very unusual direction. Sometimes it takes them into a speculative direction. When the market is going up, invest anywhere, and if you are actually able to borrow money, multiply it, so you make more money. The problem is that when you lose it, the same thing happens. It's a far bigger loss because it is a leveraged buy. So in that sense, be very methodical about it. And being methodical and disciplined and overcoming this cycle of freedom, greed and fear is crucial.
All right. So investing should be a systematic process and not an emotional one. Be mindful of that. Now, Dhirendra, moving on to the fourth one.
One is to understanding risk tolerance. That how upset you get when your capital goes down. Assuming that you have invested and it becomes 10 lakh rupees, and in a span of 6 months, it becomes 7.5 lakh or 6 lakhs. How upset you will be. And then having the understanding that you are unlikely to need this money for another 10 years. How you are able to reconcile with this information that I will hang around. I will carry on with my plan.
Right.
This is risk tolerance. It is about how upset you get. If you don't get upset, ignore it. And then how to build a risk management framework in your own portfolio. It is quite understandable that as you get closer to your retirement, as you get closer to a time when your revenue stream will come to a halt, you will stop earning. Your thinking changes. You get little more apprehensive. You get you should be little more careful. In the initial stages of your career, you think I have enough time and I will replenish it, or even if I lose, I have time and I will be earning more money over time. Here, what happens is that you configuring yourself as because every day our risk tolerance changes, not very precisely, but broadly in stages of life. Initially you can take all the risk and you have all the time and you have very little money. Later in life, you have a lot of money and less time. The same person who was not risk averse have now become risk averse. And how to calibrate this, how to navigate this. Working with your asset allocation is the only thing that you need to do. So I would say that I would like people to keep this in back of mind. One is to, as you get closer to your goal, start preparing withdrawal for that. That is one. Second is that you are still left with a lot of money for your retirement from which you will draw your income. The way to deal with it is initial phases of your investment, don't bother about asset allocation. As it becomes something meaningful, and something meaningful I would like to define it, something like your 10 years worth of savings. All the money that you have saved for 10 years, the worth of that. Then work on some asset allocation, 25% to fixed income, so that the market falls, you will have some cash or fixed shock absorbers. It will not fall, it will not crumble. Not only that, you will have money to rebalance it. You will be able to invest when the market falls. So you will start benefiting from these corrections or interim falls. And when you get closer to withdrawing income, make sure that your investment is invested in such a manner that 4% withdrawal, whether it is 60% into equity, whether it is 40% into equity, you will have to do some assessment. But you have to carefully decide that what will be the scale of money which can support at least 4% of income, because that is the only way. And in retirement, you have to invest in equity simply to protect the worth of your capital. So understanding risk tolerance and devising a mechanism of being able to implement it with common sense is crucial.
Okay, so align your investments with your actual comfort level and not just your return expectations. Now, moving on to the last one.
The other big risk management mechanism for investors is to know what they're doing. Most of the time, people don't ask this. People say, tell me where to invest and I'll do it. And if you have been able to get a wise advisor or somebody, then it generally works. But most importantly, to be able to stick through lean period, it is important to understand what you are doing and why are you doing it. And that does not require very sophisticated research. Of course, you can come to Value Research website and look at the numbers, but not to forget that investing cannot be based on looking at the rear view mirror. Most of the time we are getting excited about investment by looking at their past performance, and that is the time to remind ourselves that what the regulators tell you, that a past performance is no indicator of future performance, and more so most near future performance, immediate future performance. Second is that if you don't really understand how things work, then you will panic at the wrong time, because you really don't understand. If the market falls by 5% and you don't understand that why it falls, how often it falls, it's a regular phenomenon, then you will be in trouble. Then you will not be able to stick around. So one is to understand what you're doing.
All right then. So investing is simple but not easy. You need to stay disciplined, stay the course, ignore the noise, and be at it. Now, moving on to viewers' question, Dhirendra. Sayan Bakshi has sent in a question. He says he's 30 years old, a government servant with fixed salary. So, should he maintain equity to debt mutual fund ratio to 60-40?
No, not at all. Reason is that, if he's a government servant, 30-year-old, then he will be part of the NPS.
Right.
And NPS for the government servant, so far, of course, he has the opportunity to shift his NPS money to a equity-heavy portfolio. He can choose all that. But so far, a good part of his investment will be about, 85% will be in fixed income, 15% into equity. I think for a person like him, who is a member of NPS, where 10% deduction from his salary matched by the government, another 10% gets into NPS. First is that he should think in terms of increasing his asset allocation for a 30-year-old in the NPS plan. Take it up to 75% into equity. And at Value Research Online, you can look at the NPS plan, different plans, and how they are performing, and you have very well performing equity options. Second is that, for somebody who comes with this background where 20% of his, 10% of his savings and matched by 10% by the government is going towards NPS, where he has to, mandatorily, it will be mandatory to, convert 40% of his accumulation into annuity. I would suggest that he should invest 100% of his money in equity. He should not attempt asset allocation, because he should look at all his money together. Second is that, once his investment in mutual fund into equity becomes 20 lakh, 30 lakh, something sizable, it's almost like, 5 years of your income or 10 years of your saving, then consider, 10-20% into, because what are you trying to guard yourself against? You have to worry about your money only when, from a decline, only when it becomes meaningful. So 100% into equity becomes 5 times your annual income, 10 times your annual savings. Then think of, implementing this asset allocation of 20%.
Okay then. That's all we have for you in today's episode. Keep watching the space for more information. If you like the show, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Take care. Bye for now.